My parents used every dollar I had saved for film school to pay for my little sister's quinceañera. Then on the morning of the party, they got on a plane to Mexico with her. They didn't cancel the venue, they didn't cancel the food, they didn't even tell me they were leaving. They just left me behind to deal with an empty ballroom that had cost me 2 years of my life. By midnight, that abandoned party had become the first story I ever told that thousands of people wanted to hear. And eventually, it became the reason I finally made it to film school. My name is Camila. I'm 19 years old. My parents immigrated to the United States from Mexico before I was born. Growing up, I heard the same advice constantly: work first, dream later. My parents believed survival came before happiness. A stable paycheck mattered more than passion. Sacrifice was not something you discussed, it was simply what family expected from you. I understood where that came from. My parents had worked brutal jobs when they first arrived in the United States. My father did construction, my mother cleaned hotel rooms, and later worked in a commercial laundry. Nothing had ever been handed to them. So when I told them I wanted to study film, they didn't laugh. That almost would have been easier. Instead, my father looked at me and asked, "And what job do you get with that?" I could work in editing, production, advertising, documentary film. But what job? A real one. He shook his head. Film is for people whose parents can afford to support them. I knew what he meant. We were not those people. So when I turned 17, I found a job at a coffee shop. 6 months later, I started working evenings at a clothing store, too. I opened the coffee shop 3 mornings before school. On weekends, I worked both jobs on the same day. I learned how to smile at customers after sleeping 4 hours. I learned how to eat dinner from a vending machine during a 15-minute break. I learned how to say no when friends invited me out because even spending $20 felt like stealing from my future. Every paycheck went into a savings account my father had helped me open when I was 17. His name remained on it because I had been a minor at the time. I never thought about removing him. Why would I? He was my father. By 19, I had saved $15,480. I knew the exact number because I checked it almost every night. That money represented hundreds of coffee orders, folded shirts, late buses, and weekends I would never get back. And finally, it was enough. I had applied to a 1-year film production program in Los Angeles. It wasn't a famous university, it was a practical program focused on editing, cinematography, screenwriting, and production. Exactly what I wanted. When the acceptance email arrived, I read it so many times that I nearly memorized it. I had until August 15th to pay the tuition deposit and confirm my place. For the first time, my dream was not something distant. It had an address, a starting date, a payment deadline. Then, at the beginning of July, my parents called me into the living room. My younger sister, Lucia, was turning 15 in August. A quinceañera had always mattered to my mother. She had never had one herself. Her family could not afford it when she was young, and she spoke about that missed celebration like it was a small wound she had carried into adulthood. "We want to give Lucia a real quinceañera," she told me. I smiled. "That's nice." "A proper one," my father added, "with the whole family." I assumed they had been saving for it. Then my mother placed a folder on the coffee table. Inside were photographs of a ballroom, decorations, and catering packages. I looked at the prices. My stomach tightened. "What is this?" "The venue we found," she said. "That venue costs almost $7,000. It includes the tables and chairs." $7,000 for tables and chairs? My father leaned forward. "We need your help." "With planning?" "With the expenses." I looked from him to my mother. "How much?" My mother didn't answer. My father did. "We need the money in your savings account." For a moment, I genuinely thought I had misunderstood him. "My film school money?" "You can save again. The deposit is due next month." "You're 19, my mother said. "You have time." "That money took me 2 years. And your sister only turns 15 once. So I'm supposed to lose school because she needs a party?" My mother's expression hardened. "Don't talk about your sister like that." "I'm not blaming Lucia. I'm asking why I have to pay for everything." My father pointed toward the folder. "We're paying for what we can." "What does that mean?" "It means family contributes." I am contributing. I pay for my phone, my transportation, and part of the groceries. This is different. Yes, this is my entire future. My father stood. You live in this house. We have supported you your whole life. I'm your daughter. That isn't a loan. No one said it was. That is exactly what this sounds like. My mother began crying. Not loudly, just enough to make me feel as if I had become cruel for protecting something I had earned myself. Your sister has never asked for anything, she said. Lucia was not even in the room. I didn't know whether she had asked for a large party or whether my mother was trying to recreate the quinceañera she had never received. I can help with some of it, I said. Maybe $2,000. My father shook his head. That won't cover what we already reserved. My heart stopped. You already reserved it? He didn't answer immediately. Then I understood. They had already signed contracts. They had already made promises using money that did not belong to them. How much have you committed to? Almost 14,000. I stood. Cancel it. The deposits are non-refundable. Then you should have thought about that before booking it. My father's voice changed. Camila, this decision has been made. It was not your decision to make. This is a family matter. It is my money. As long as you live under this roof, you are part of this family. The threat was not stated directly. It didn't need to be. If I refused, I could lose my home. I didn't earn enough to pay rent, cover school, and survive alone. Still, I told them no. I went to my bedroom, closed the door, and opened my banking app. The balance was still there, $15,480. I told myself I would go to the bank the next morning and remove my father from the account. I was too late. At 7:40 a.m. the next morning, my phone alerted me that $14,800 had been transferred. My father had moved almost everything into his account. I walked into the kitchen holding my phone. Put it back. My mother was making coffee. My father was already dressed for work. We need to pay the vendors, he said. You stole from me. Watch how you speak to me. You took money I earned. It was a joint account because you opened it when I was 17, and legally, I had access. The fact that he said legally told me he knew exactly what he had done. I looked at my mother. Are you okay with this? She avoided my eyes. Someday you'll understand what it means to sacrifice for your family. I wanted to scream. Instead, I returned to my bedroom and closed the door. I called the film program that afternoon. I asked whether I could receive more time. The woman in admissions was kind, but the answer was no. They had a waiting list. If I could not pay the deposit by August 15th, they would offer my place to someone else. I thanked her before my voice broke. Then, I sat on the floor and stared at the acceptance email until the words became blurry. My dream had not disappeared because I failed. It had been spent. Over the next several weeks, my mother turned me into the event planner. She said that because I was creative, I should handle the decorations, photographer, invitations, and music. I wanted to refuse, but the contracts were already signed. The money was already gone. Part of me believed that if the event was beautiful enough, maybe losing my savings would hurt less. Maybe Lucia would remember it for the rest of her life. Maybe I could convince myself that my sacrifice had meant something. So, I worked. I confirmed the ballroom, I negotiated the menu, I chose flowers that looked expensive without actually being expensive. I created digital invitations, I called the DJ, I organized a photographer, I even edited a video montage of Lucia as a child. The strange part was that Lucia barely participated. Whenever I asked what color she wanted or which song she preferred, she shrugged. Whatever mom wants. Aren't you excited? I guess. You guess? She looked uncomfortable. Mom is more excited than I am. That should have told me something. So should the fact that my parents kept having quiet conversations in the kitchen. So should the passports I noticed on my father's desk. When I asked why they were out, he said he was checking when they expired. My best friend Sophia noticed other things. She helped me assemble centerpieces one afternoon while my parents were at work. Has your family invited anyone? She asked. I sent the invitations. I mean your parents. Have they called relatives, confirmed guests? My mother gave me a list. There are only 40 people on it. The venue holds 180. They said more people would confirm later. Sophia stopped tying the ribbon around a vase. Cammy, something feels wrong. I know. No, I mean really wrong. Your sister doesn't care about the party. Your parents haven't done anything except spend your money. And half the guest list is people from your mother's church who haven't confirmed. What do you want me to do? The money is gone. Ask them directly. I have. Ask them what they aren't telling you. I didn't. I think part of me already knew there was another secret. I just couldn't survive discovering that the situation was even worse. The night before the quinceañera, my mother came into my room. Try to sleep, she said. Tomorrow will be a long day. Are you going to the venue early? We'll talk in the morning. About what? She kissed my forehead. Get some rest, mija. It was such a normal gesture that I almost believed everything was fine. At 5:30 the next morning, I woke to the sound of a car door closing. I looked through my window and saw the taillights of a rideshare disappearing down the street. The house was silent. My parents' bedroom was empty. Lucia's room was empty. 3 suitcases were gone. I called my mother. No answer. I called my father. Straight to voicemail. Then I opened our family group chat. There was a message from my mother, sent at 5:12. Your uncle found affordable tickets for us to Mexico. Your abuela has not been feeling well, and the whole family wanted to celebrate Lucia there. Everything happened very quickly. We didn't want to wake you because you worked so hard on the event. Please contact the venue and explain. We'll send pictures. We love you. I read it twice. Then, a third time. They had flown to Mexico with Lucia on the morning of the quinceañera. The party I had paid for was supposed to begin in less than 12 hours. I called the venue. The manager reminded me that the final payment had already been processed. The ballroom was mine from 6 until midnight, whether anyone arrived or not. The caterer had purchased and prepared food for 120 people, non-refundable. The DJ was already setting up his equipment, non-refundable. The photographer had turned down another event, non-refundable. I called my mother again. Nothing. Then I called Lucia. She answered. There was airport noise behind her. Kami? Did you know about this? There was a pause. Mom said the party in the US was canceled. She told you it was canceled? She said the venue returned the money and that Uncle Rafa bought the tickets last minute because Abuela hasn't been feeling well. The money was not returned. What? The entire event is still happening tonight. I didn't know. Why didn't you tell me you were leaving? Mom said you had to work and couldn't come. I closed my eyes. They had lied to both of us. Lucia, I have to go. Kami, I swear I didn't know. I believe you. I ended the call. Then I sat on the kitchen floor and cried. Not graceful tears, not the silent kind people cry in movies. I cried until my head hurt. I had lost my savings, my film program, my trust in my parents. And now I had an empty ballroom, enough food for a small army, and no family to celebrate. Sophia arrived less than an hour later. I hadn't called her. Lucia had. Sophia found me sitting against the kitchen cabinets. She listened while I explained everything. When I finished, she asked one question. How much money can you recover if you cancel? Almost nothing. Then we aren't canceling. I stared at her. There is no quinceañera without the girl turning 15. So we changed the party. Into what? I don't know yet. Sophia, the event starts tonight. We have a ballroom, food, music, a photographer. All of it is already paid for. With my college money. Exactly. So let's make it do something for your future. I laughed because the alternative was crying again. You think people are going to pay to attend a stranger's abandoned quinceañera? Not if we call it that. Sophia contacted the venue manager and explained what had happened. To my surprise, she was sympathetic. She agreed to let us change the event as long as we respected the maximum capacity and provided a guest list at the entrance. The venue's bar would operate separately, checking identification and selling its own drinks. The food and soft drinks I had purchased could still be served. Sophia contacted friends from the community college. I contacted coworkers. One of the baristas I worked with belonged to a student film club. They agreed to share the event in their private group. We renamed it The Second Take, a last-minute fundraiser for a future filmmaker whose tuition savings had been spent on an event her family abandoned. I hated the description. It felt too personal, too humiliating, but it was true. We created a free registration page because we couldn't legally exceed the venue's capacity. Within an hour, 30 people registered, then 60, then 100. By 4 in the afternoon, every available place had been claimed. I still expected half of them to not come. At 6:15, the first guests arrived. My coworkers, several old classmates, students from the local film club, a young musician who volunteered to perform before the DJ started, people I had never met but who had read Sophia's post and wanted to support the event. I stood near the entrance, wearing the dress I had bought for Lucia's party. For the first time all day, I stopped feeling abandoned. The ballroom filled. People ate, they danced, they took pictures in front of the flower wall I had spent 3 nights building. The video montage I had created for Lucia remained on my laptop. Instead, the film students asked me to show some of the short videos I had made. I had never shown them publicly before. They were simple. One was about a retired bus driver, another followed my mother during an early morning shift at the laundry, filmed before everything between us changed. When the videos ended, people applauded. Not because they were perfect, they weren't, but for the first time, strangers saw the thing I wanted to become. Sophia placed a QR code near the entrance. The sign said, Cammie's Film School Fund. Donations are voluntary. Tonight is free. Her dream shouldn't be. I tried to remove it. She stopped me. You have spent 2 years doing everything alone. Let people choose to help. The first donation was $5, then 20, then 50. A filmmaking student named Noah asked whether he could interview me for his social media page. His account focused on local artists and student stories. I almost said no. Then I looked around the ballroom. A party meant for someone else had become the most honest thing I had ever created. So I told him the truth. I explained the jobs, the savings, the joint account, the film program, the empty house, the message from Mexico. I did not insult my family. I didn't need to. The facts were enough. Noah posted a 90-second version of the interview that night. By the time the event ended, it had 10,000 views. By the next morning, it had passed 80,000. A local news page contacted me. Then a Mexican-American community organization shared the fundraiser. 3 days later, the video had passed 1 million views. Not everyone supported me. Some people said I was selfish for embarrassing my parents. Others said I should have refused from the beginning. A few insisted that children owed everything to the parents who raised them. But thousands of people understood. Some had lost college funds for family emergencies. Some had been forced to become the responsible child. Some had watched their dreams postponed so often that eventually everyone stopped pretending the postponement was temporary. The donations grew gradually. $5, $10, 25. Messages came with them. For your first camera, for the tuition deposit, for every shift you worked when no one was watching. 1 week after the party, the fundraiser reached $17,800, more than I had lost. I closed it. People told me to leave it open, but I didn't want to turn my family's betrayal into a business. I only wanted my future back. The film program had seen the local news story, but they did not offer me a place because I had gone viral. I already had the place. I had earned that before any of this happened. They did, however, connect me with a local arts foundation offering emergency scholarships to students facing unexpected financial hardship. I submitted my original films, my grades, my acceptance letter, and proof of the money I had saved. 2 weeks later, the foundation awarded me a partial scholarship. Between the scholarship and the fundraiser, I could pay tuition and afford my first months in Los Angeles. Meanwhile, in Mexico, the story had reached my family. One of my cousins showed Noah's video during Lucia's celebration. Lucia told me later that the room became completely silent. She turned to our mother and said, "You told me Camilla canceled the party." My father tried to take the phone away. My Aunt Amalia stopped him. Then the questions started. Why had they used my savings? Why had they left me behind? Why had they lied about the refund? My mother said it was a private family matter, but once you use one daughter's future to fund another daughter's celebration, it stops feeling private to the daughters involved. Lucia called me that night. She was crying. "I'm sorry. You didn't do this. I should have asked more questions. You're 15. They lied to you. I don't even want this party anymore." "Then don't let what they did ruin your birthday, too." "How can you say that?" "Because you are my sister. You are not the person who took my money." That was the moment our relationship changed. For years, I had seen Lucia as the child who received everything, while I worked for it. But she had also been used. My mother wanted the perfect quinceañera she had never experienced. My father wanted to prove to the family in Mexico that he had succeeded in America. Lucia had become the centerpiece of a celebration built around everyone's wishes except hers. My parents returned 4 days later. I was packing when they walked into the house. My mother saw the suitcases. "What are you doing?" "I'm leaving." "For where?" "Los Angeles." My father placed his keys on the table. "You made us look like criminals. You took $14,800 from me. We used it for your sister. You used it for yourselves." My mother looked wounded. "That is not true. Lucia did not ask for any of this. You wanted the party. We wanted to give her what we never had. So you took what I had." My father raised his voice. "You got the money back. That does not erase what you did. You have more money now than before. Because strangers helped me after my parents abandoned me." My mother started crying. This time, I didn't feel guilty. Not because I enjoyed seeing her hurt, because I finally understood that her pain could not always become my responsibility. "We did everything for you, girls," she said. "I know you sacrificed for us. Then why are you doing this?" "Because sacrifice is something you choose for yourself. It is not something you force onto someone else." My father crossed his arms. "You're leaving this family over money?" "No, I'm leaving because you took 2 years of my life, spent them without my permission, and then left the country without telling me." He had no answer. My Aunt Amalia lived outside Los Angeles. She had seen the video and called me before my parents returned. She offered me her spare room for 3 months while I found work and started school. At the beginning of August, I left home with one suitcase, a used camera, and enough money to begin again. Lucia hugged me in the driveway. My parents remained inside. I looked toward the front door, hoping one of them would come outside. Neither did. That hurt, but it did not stop me. The film program was harder than I expected. Everyone seemed more experienced. Some students had been making movies since childhood. They knew equipment names I had never heard before. During my first week, I wondered whether my father had been right. Maybe film really was for people with wealthy parents, expensive cameras, and connections. Then, one of my instructors assigned us a 3-minute documentary. "Tell a true story," she said, "but don't just tell us what happened. Tell us what it meant." I made mine about the abandoned quinceañera, not the viral version, the real one. I filmed the empty rooms of my aunt's house, my work shoes, the acceptance letter, the last $680 left in my original savings account. I used audio from the party and footage of strangers dancing under the lights I had paid for. The final shot was the flower wall after everyone had gone home. Beautiful, empty, still standing. I called the film The Second Take. When it ended, the classroom remained silent for several seconds. Then my instructor said, "That is why you're here." I had spent years believing I needed permission to call myself a filmmaker. I didn't. I only needed to begin telling the truth. I still speak to Lucia almost every day. Our relationship is stronger now because we finally stopped seeing each other as competitors for our parents' approval. My relationship with my parents is different. For several months, we barely spoke. Eventually, my mother apologized. A real apology. Not for how everything looked online, for taking my money and lying to me. My father took longer. He still believes family members should sacrifice for one another. I agree with him. Where we disagree is whether sacrifice can still be called love when the person making it is never allowed to say no. We are rebuilding slowly, but forgiveness has not returned him to my bank account. Understanding someone does not require giving them the same opportunity to hurt you twice. That quinceañera cost me almost every dollar I had, but the party they abandoned became the first film story I ever lived before I learned how to tell it. My parents believed they had postponed my dream. Instead, they accidentally gave me my opening scene. So let me ask you honestly, if your parents took your education savings to pay for a sibling celebration, would you forgive them? And when they abandoned the party, would you have canceled everything? Or would you have opened the doors and turned it into something of your own? Drop your verdict in the comments. Like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who has been told to postpone their dream for everyone else. Because here, one story always leads to another.